What's up, everybody? My name's Driscoe. As you know, you follow me. This is Malaka.
Hi, everyone.
And we're actually good friends. We go to church together, and we were having a conversation like a while ago about mental health and my story in the car one time because she was driving me home from church, and it was going really well.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to share the conversation with you guys, and this is going to be a little docuseries that I post every couple days, 3-minute episodes. So we're just going to hop right into it.
Yeah. So, when we were driving home, Sean was sharing a little bit about his diagnosis with bipolar. Did you say bipolar 1 or bipolar 2?
Bipolar 1.
Right. I don't think many people know the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So what is the difference, you would say?
So bipolar 1 has it's more of a drastic component. Like if there's a pendulum, if the pendulum swings, it swings way up for really happy, really, really happy, and way down, or on the other side for really, really sad. Mm-hmm. With bipolar 2, it's more of, it's a swing, but it's not quite as drastic. Mm-hmm. So bipolar 1 is unique in the sense that, like, when you're manic, you're really, 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 really happy, full of energy, and it's full-blown mania, as opposed to full-blown depression if you're really, really depressed. But bipolar 2 has a little lesser.
Mm-hmm. So you were bipolar 1, okay.
Correct.
So that means you experienced, like, mania.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was great. It's great. Like, it's one of those things that mania is one of the best feelings you'll ever feel, but it's not sustainable and it's not healthy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's like having superpowers but not being able to harness them properly. That's what mania is like.
I think that a lot of people at times, that's why they don't get help, because they enjoy being in that state of mania at times. Do you think so?
Exactly. I think a lot of times, like, the mania, like, people enjoy it so much that they don't want to receive medications, they don't want to try therapy, they want to just live how they are. And sometimes people don't even know that they have a problem. Like, sometimes people think it's the natural, like, the status quo, like, this is me, like, I'm when really they have something wrong with them. But, like, that's when sometimes things might seem off, like, you don't notice, but they might not notice, but other people around them start to notice that something's weird, something's going on with them, and, like, that's a good time to really, like, talk to that person about maybe, like, trying to see somebody, or just having a conversation with them and seeing where they're at. And
Well, when was it that you realized, or that when you was diagnosed with it?
So I didn't realize it at first. Like, my parents were the first ones to realize, and, like, family and school, people in school were the first ones to realize that I had something wrong with me. I didn't think anything was wrong with me. Like, I thought that I was good. I thought that, my energy was great, because I would run around the school. Like, I would get out of basketball practice. I was playing basketball, and I would run around the school. Like, just like full
just
energy,
running,
just running.
Yeah.
And my friends were like, "What is going on?" And I got to basketball practice one time, and I couldn't stop crying because I got sent to the principal's office, or the assistant principal's office, because I wouldn't take my hat off in the building. And I was, like, being rebellious for no reason, and, like, just different things like that. It was just,
How old were you?
I was 15 at the time, and then I turned 16 in the hospital. So, like, I remember when I first arrived at the hospital, it was like a standard, like, GBMC, I believe it was GBMC. And they were like, they said that there were some manic components, and they think I had bipolar disorder. Well, I didn't believe them, and they transferred me from there to Shepherd Pratt because of how, like, in that same night, because of how, like, off the wall I was, and I was, like, yelling and cussing, like, I'm not going there, like, F that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was, like, all this, like, built up tension, and, like, my parents were saying, well, you're gonna have to go, and, like, because they were my parents and I was under 18, like, I had to go, because I was, if you're an adult, that is going through that, you have to be a threat to yourself or others in order to be admitted to the hospital. But because I wasn't a threat to myself or others, but I was underage, like I was able to go, and luckily I did, because that helped to, I have to understand, like, you know, I started learning about my illness and like things, but yeah.
So who took you to the hospital? Was it one of those things
I
that
think
voluntary, or
my
you?
parents and my aunt told me that I should go.
Okay. And
I was like, well, I'm not going. And then they ended up taking me. They said, we're either going to take you or we're going to call the ambulance. And then they ended up taking me, but then the ambulance transferred me from GBMC to Shepherd Pratt. So for the first one, there was 3 hospitalizations. I don't remember, some of the details are a little bit foggy with like regards to like which order it was in, but yeah.
You know, Shepherd Pratt, a lot of people know about Shepherd Pratt. So what was it like being in Shepherd Pratt?
You know, honestly, like I just remember, I remember a lot of the details. Some of them are not necessarily sharing, but some of them are. Like, for instance, overall, like I remember like doing music therapy, you know, and like creative writing and things of that nature. Those were some of the groups I liked. I didn't really like art therapy as much. It wasn't my thing. But like the music sense, like it was cool. There were different groups that we had. I didn't have an overall bad hospitalization. Like it was pretty, like it benefited me being there. I honestly, like, it was hard being there because I didn't know how to get out. Like, I remember thinking, like, how do I get out of here? I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Like, and really, I was just sick. I needed to stabilize, and like, you know. So there were some times where, like, you know, I remember some of the workers, either it was in my head or like one of the workers in particular, like I felt like he was looking down on me, like. But I could have also, like, there were some feelings of paranoia, so, like, sometimes, like, I'm not sure which one it actually was, you know?
So you mentioned paranoia. So was that part of your symptoms that you experienced as well?
Yeah, so, like, I had racing thoughts, paranoia, delusions. Like, I thought that, like, the hospital, like, I thought that people working at the hospital were out to get me, or, like, people in my neighborhood were out to get me, and I thought some of the people at the hospital were celebrities. Like, it was like an interesting time. Like,
wow. So wait, so let's just backtrack. So when you first got diagnosed, you was 15 or 16?
I was 15, and then I turned 16 in the hospital.
Okay. So what was that like in your mind for someone to say, hey, you're diagnosed with bipolar 1? Like, how did you make sense out of all of that?
It didn't make sense at first because I didn't think there was anything wrong with me, but eventually, like, it became, you know, once I got out of the hospital, like the first 2 weeks, I was in the first hospital stay, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. The second stay was 3 weeks. The third stay was a month, and I finally, like, got out. Every time I got out of the hospital, like, I would, you know, they thought that I would be all right, and then I ended up back in the hospital, partly because my environment, because I would go back to school and I would have all this makeup work, like, you know, all this, like, makeup work, it would just be thrown at me, and then I would be expected to complete it, and I would just break down, and, like, then it was back to the hospital. So I knew at some point in between the hospital stays that something was wrong with me, but I didn't know exactly what it was, or, like, I mean, I knew it was bipolar at that point, but, like, you know, then I just put on music and just, like, I remember, like, one time, like, going to the hospital, like, my dad was like, I was like, Dad, I think at one point I realized that I needed to go back to the hospital, and then we ended up getting Dunkin' Donuts, and I, like, had a breakfast sandwich, and I remember listening to, like, J. Cole, like, just, like, the Sideline Story. That was what helped me going to the hospital, and then got to the hospital, and they took my iPod and everything, like, but, like, going to the hospital, I specifically remember, like, listening to J. Cole and listening to certain songs, and, like, certain songs, like, I thought were about me. Like, in one of the hospital stays, I thought that, like, some of the music was, like, talking about me. Like, I don't know if you know the song Looking Boy, like, hey looking boy, slow looking boy.
No, I do not.
Okay.
I apologize,
it's
but no.
It's old school. Yeah, I mean, not old school, but it's like it's a hip hop track from the era that I was, like, when I was, like, from mid 2000s, like early 2000s. But like it's a track that like they're like kind of putting down somebody, like, and I thought that all those lyrics were like geared towards me, and it was difficult to like thinking, like I was like paranoid, like why are they talking about me, like, you know, like that's like kind of like what I was feeling at the time.
And I remember we were talking about this in the car, and I think that you said that you were diagnosed with bipolar 1 with psychosis? With
psychotic features, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there were a lot of things that like happened that I thought people were out to get me, you know, all that stuff. Like people were celebrities, and music was part of that psychosis, which is interesting that it had such a, you know, music was speaking to me in a different way, but I had to like, it was like music was part of the problem, but it was also the biggest part of the solution, one of the bigger part of the solutions.
So it's like you felt like when listening to music, you were getting specific messages directly to you.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like a lot of people sometimes they say like the TV's talking to them. It wasn't really the TV, it was more like music. And like, I remember just being so manic and like trying to turn on the TV at the hospital, and I would go out into the area and like turn on I was supposed to be in bed, and like it was like 5 a.m, and I was up and like dancing to music, like on Music Choice, like on their television at the hospital. It was just like I remember being in like the padded room, like not being able to, like, because I would be bouncing off the walls, or like I would be running in the hospital. Like it was just like an intense stay, and I would like, it was just.
Wow. Talk about the lows though, when you got really low, when that depression came in.
Yeah, the first time it was like after the Mania, one of the hospital stays, I was like breaking down and like really crying, like to a point where like that was when I really wrote. Like I really wrote about my feelings on paper that they had there, and like I really wrote about like what I was going through. Because when you're manic, like a lot of times you become, when you're done being manic, you think of all the things that you did while you were manic. Imagine thinking of all the mistakes that you made in the span of 30 days.
Wow.
Like, and you made a lot because when you're manic, like you don't think of things, like it's impulsive. Like there's like, you know, there were girls that I like tried talking to and I probably said some stupid stuff like out of my mouth, like to them, or like, you know, all these different things that you're ashamed of when you're, you know, like I remember there was a nurse that like, you know, that I said something weird to, and like it was just made everything uncomfortable. And then I didn't realize that it was like, you know, until I came off of that high, you don't realize what you do. Like sometimes it's like when you're really that sick, like you don't realize like how bad it is. Like
it's like you're looking like, oh my God, look at all of this stuff that I did.
And really, it's not exactly your fault because you're sick.
Right. I think that's really important that you say that it's not really your fault. It's not your fault. It's the illness.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people, when have diagnosis, that guilt comes in and the stigmatization comes in, but it's not your fault. It's the illness. Did you ever felt any guilt or shame when it comes to your diagnosis?
Oh yeah, like that's the depression when you're depressed with bipolar, and it's because of the being after you were manic. Like there's a lot of shame and, you know, like not regrets. I don't regret anything anymore, but like at the time I probably had some regrets about what I've done in Mania. I mean, I can think back to some pretty like bad times, but you know, it's just about like learning from them and really like realizing that like that was the illness. It wasn't really, while you have to hold yourself accountable to a degree, you can't when you're sick like that and you're in the hospital, there's a reason you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
And So.
Earlier you mentioned that at one point you told your dad that I think I need to go back to the hospital. That took a lot of strength and awareness to know, okay, something's wrong, I don't feel right, maybe I need to go get some help. But why do you think some people don't get help?
Because a lot of people don't have support in their life to tell them that, I was literally forced to go to the hospital. Like, a lot of people, different people, don't have people that are knowledgeable around them about mental health problems. So they go on and they live life without knowing that they have anything wrong with them, and then they have kids, and then it's just a cycle of that's why awareness is so important. Just trying to bring awareness to people, letting people know that it's okay to have a problem and there are solutions to the problem. You just have to be willing to accept treatment and figure out where you have to meet people where they're at when you're actually talking to people and seeing where they want to, if they're not ready for treatment or they're not ready for that, you have to kind of step back and okay, nothing we can do. But a lot of times people don't even have people who are interested in learning about the illness, or they don't know enough about the illness, and it's just hard for people to get treatment sometimes, because they don't know there's anything wrong with them. And I depend a lot on my supports, to tell me that my parents, my adopted parents, I'm adopted, and my biological parents had mental health problems. So they knew what to look for. My adopted parents knew that there was a good chance I would have something wrong with me. My birth father has bipolar disorder. My birth mother has bipolar and schizophrenia. So
you kind of that genetic factor might have played a part in your diagnosis.
Sorry, the genetic and the environment, brought it out of me. But I always had I was predisposed. I was probably always going to have it. It's just what it is.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we were talking about when we were in the car, clearly we go to church together. And so I was like, well, how has your faith played a part in your diagnosis and staying healthy? How did your faith play a part in all of this?
Yeah, when I was diagnosed, I wasn't really very spiritual. I mean, there were things that were, that I would think about, but it was, if I felt so far from God, and now I look at everything as a blessing. I think it's the outlook on how I've been able to overcome it and conquer it, and that's all a testament to God and the strength of God. And the reason that I'm here is because I have that gave me my purpose. It literally, a lot of people don't identify with their illness, or they don't identify with, they say I have bipolar disorder, but they don't talk I am bipolar. There's a difference in it. But I actually say I am bipolar, and it's my choice to say it because I feel like it is a part of my identity, in the sense that it gave me the purpose and the reason that I'm here. And God, sometimes we go through things because we have lessons to learn, and we're here for a reason. And I went through all that to give me the reason to share my story, not only my story, but to help people get through their day, to give the gift of speaking to people, to give the gift of creativity, and all that ties into the gifts that God gave me in order to achieve.
Yeah, so your faith has played a big part, big part. One of the things that we discussed is the fact that though mental health is such a common thing, mental health illness is such a common thing in the United States, that it's not talked about enough in the church community.
Exactly.
Why do you think that that's happening?
I think it's starting to get talked about more, but I feel like there was a time where people thought that you could just pray away demons, voices. You could just pray it away. can just pray away like whatever your problems are, but really like you can pray, but you also have to like find a way to talk about what you're going through. You also have to find a way to, you know, get treatment. Like sometimes you need medication, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need family support. Like all that's important. Like prayer is just one component of it, and you can't just pray things away. I mean, yes, prayer helps, but like sometimes we actually need to be treated for these illnesses, and like it's a tangible thing. Like you can't see it, but you know it's there because you're hearing voices. You're feeling things that aren't normal. Or I didn't hear voices, but like I'm talking about people with schizophrenia or things of that nature. Because that's one of the more common, you know, things that people think of when they think of mental health problems. They think of like, you know, schizophrenia and, you know. So
it sounds like what you're saying is like, it's okay to pray, but get your treatment too. You know, it's okay to pray, but take your medication as well. And I think that it's okay. I think that in the church community at times we lack education in mental health, right?
Exactly.
And I think that the more educated we become, I think that the better equipped we'll be able to address those issues as well.
Exactly. And I think that was why it was so cool, because Pastor Ken and I have a just special relationship in the sense that he took the time to ask me how he could better serve people with mental health problems, and he went and took a mental health first aid class. And we might not agree on different beliefs and different things all the time, but he's such a good man in order to guide and give you he has so much wisdom, and it's just important to realize that that's what we need. We need leaders like that to really bring forth take those classes on mental health, understand more about mental health, and all that stuff. Ask questions if you don't know. All that stuff is important. I'm sorry, it was a late night.
I'm trying to edit those out.
No, it's okay. Keep it. It's cool. It's cool.
Should we pause?
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're gonna
So we're gonna keep talking because
edit.
it's something else that I wanted to talk about that you mentioned earlier, and I want to make sure we capture this. Going back to your diagnosis and going back to the psychosis part that you talked about, right? Were there other symptoms that you experienced? You talked about paranoia. What did that look like? What was you paranoid about?
So, some of the paranoia revolved around my neighbors. I remember in the neighborhood when I was out of the hospital, I would be in between hospitalizations. I remember thinking that my neighbors were out to get me, so I would open the blinds and I'd be oh yeah, you're not gonna get me. I remember being yeah, this is this is me, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can't touch me, you know what I'm saying, things like that. So that was some of the paranoia, thinking they were out to get me. I was trying to be all tough, but that wasn't me. I was just sick.
Yeah. What helped with those paranoid thoughts?
I think just eventually after being in the going back to the hospital, and also in the hospital, I thought that people were looking at me trying to attack me in the hospital. I remember that too. And I don't know exactly. I just kind of bounced out of it eventually. It was just kind of something that just went away with medications and talking about things and all that stuff. So
did you ever receive therapy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had therapy and medication. What kind of medication were you on?
Lithium, risperidone, Depakote, a whole bunch of different stuff.
Usuals.
Yeah, the usuals.
Yeah. But they helped.
Abilify. Yeah.
They helped.
Yeah, eventually everything. What happened was I was on Abilify. Eventually after I got out of the hospital, they weaned me off everything except for Abilify and Depakote, and then I just stopped taking it. And then eventually I just talked to my doctor and told her I had stopped taking it for 3 months, and then my parents came in the room and they were upset because my dad, my dad's mother had schizophrenia, and when she would go off her meds, she would be back in the hospital. So I agreed to take the Abilify injection, and that's what I went on for a long time. And now I just take the pill every day because my insurance doesn't cover the injection, and I still understand the importance of like certain medications and stuff. So.
And so you're saying that, and you pretty much just said that medication is important. It's
important. It's not for everybody. Not everybody needs medication, but in my case, like it is for me, you know. And it's important for me. I noticed when I was out in LA and we were making music out in LA, and I would forget to take my medications every day. Like this is recently, like the beginning of this year, and I would cry like for no reason. Like I would cry for little things that were like me and Marcus, the guy I work with on music and production, and he's an artist and everything. He's super talented. Shout out to Marcus. But we were having a conversation, and I just started crying, and you know, that's when I realized how important like taking my medications were, because I kind of like tested to see like, am I gonna be all right? Like, and I would forget sometimes genuinely, but also if I forgot, I wouldn't like rush to take it. I would just be like, oh, I'll get it next time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I realized that like it was really important to really take it. So
yeah. So you was aware like of like triggers, and like you were aware like, okay, my emotions, something is off. I need to get back on my medication.
And that kind of came with years of like just learning what helped and what, like, that's just self-awareness now. Like, you know, once I got on the right regimen of medications, and for me it's just one right now, that's when I realized that, you know, that it's just that self-awareness. You have to have that self-awareness in order to realize that you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to do this without medications. Like, all of that can happen. Like, you can be, you know, supported by family. You can be supported by friends. I'll never forget, like, my friend Cam, when I was in the hospital. Like, every time I would get in and out of the hospital, he would always be there, like, no matter what, you know. And so Cam was like one of the biggest influences in my life during that time, you know, and very important for me to my recovery, because he's one of those real friends that, like, he never left my side. Like, he could have left and been like, oh, this dude's crazy, like, I'm not gonna mess with him no more, like, that's over. Like, nah, he was like there for me. Like, he when I was dancing in the shoe store because I was manic, he wasn't ashamed of me, you know.
Oh, wow. You know, that really, first of all, you said he could have said, like, oh, you're crazy. That really bothers me when people categorize people with mental health issues as though they are crazy, you know, or family members being embarrassed. You know, like, I really think that at times causes people to be silent. And at times they are in pain, but they're silent about their pain because, number one, they don't want to be categorized as crazy, and number two, they don't want to be an embarrassment to their family. It's that
stigma around it.
Yes.
It's that stigma.
Yes.
And, like, you know, sometimes we gotta, like, we just have to talk about things more. We just have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And we have to let people know that it's okay to talk about illness. And that's what I'm trying to do as an artist, you know, just let people know that, hey, it's okay that you feel this way. Like, it's okay to not be okay. That's a cliche phrase that's used a lot, but it's true. Like, it's okay to not be okay right now. Like, let's figure out how to make this better.
And it's more common than people realize. It's just a lot of people are silent about their not okay moments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that happened when I was recovering that helped me get through my diagnosis that we haven't really touched on. So, like, one of the things that was biggest with my recovery was getting creative and writing. When I was sick, I could freestyle really well off the top of my head because my thoughts were racing. Racing thoughts is a big, big thing with bipolar. And I could freestyle really well, like rapping wise. But then when I took medications, my thoughts slowed down. I could think more clearly, but I couldn't think as fast as I wanted to be able to freestyle. So I just started writing things down. And that was when one of the workers actually gave me like the jukebox that he used for the groups, for the creative writing groups. He actually let me take it into the room and just start writing to it. And that's what I did. Like, I just wrote when it was a nap time or something, like, or whatever we did in the hospital, like when we were all in our rooms or whatever, like I would just write. And
were you just writing your feelings, or were you writing?
No, I was writing
like
bars.
Lyrics? Okay.
Bars.
Okay,
like,
bars. Okay.
Bars, straight bars, homie. Like, yeah, it was an interesting time. But yeah, it was just bars and like.
Was this the first time you started writing and getting into music?
This was, so when I would freestyle, like, I mean, I was always like a musician. There were times where I sang in chorus class, and I was the fifth best baritone in 8th grade in the county. Fifth best baritone in the county, in Baltimore County.
Okay.
I had the fifth chair,
So you be joining the praise and worship team.
I can still sing. I'm working on more music that's singing related. But no, so the singing has always been there, but the writing was new. The freestyling was new.
And was that new because of the when you were ill, like the Mania? Did it come in then?
It was, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
The Mania was the freestyling.
Okay, okay.
But I can still freestyle now.
Okay.
Put on a beat now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hit you with some bars.
So you said that there were things that helped you in your recovery. So music is a big part.
Big part, yeah.
A big part that helped you. Some of your content, did it come out of your illness that you experienced?
Yeah, I'm definitely like the new project that I'm working on, like that is finished, but like we haven't put it out yet. It's all about that. I have a song called Immaculate Timing. Touches on like my battle with mental health, suicide awareness. Because there was one point where I was like, I don't think I was ever really serious about doing it, but like I thought there were thoughts that I had that would run through my mind, like. So one of the lines that I wrote in the song was, suicide would lead to silence, but I've got music inside me. That helped me get through, like, that was just my reminder, like, when I wrote the lyrics recently, that was me looking back at the hospital, like, wow, like, I was, at one point, like, I was thinking about suicide, like, but that would only lead to silence, like, I have so much more ahead of me, like, there's so much more to live for, and that was what influenced the writing of that lyric, and it's deep, like, it's really deep stuff, it's, so I've went from writing lyrics about anything, I write about anything, but like anything that I'm going through genuinely. Like, I've had battles with women and falling in love and then being heartbroken, all that good stuff. So there's a little bit of everything in the music, and mental health is a big part of that as well. For my content and my music, and on my page, I try to encourage people to just be positive and spread joy, spread love, because at the end of the day, as much as there's a lot of things that I don't, as you know, I'm Christian, but like there's a lot of things I don't agree with regards to like beliefs and particularly like some of the things in the Bible I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the book itself is about love.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody, like a wise person once told me that, like, the book is about love at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So if we could just be more receptive and more open to loving people as opposed to bringing hate and, you know, war and like all that stuff, like if we could just love people and accept people, that's what, you know, and like understand that people are battling with different things and battling with mental health problems, battling with obesity, battling with any, like there's, people are battling with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And like, if we just taught people to love more and to have empathy and like all that good stuff like that, that's what life is about. So, not to get too deep, we got a little off topic.
No,
but
you're fine. You're
but,
fine. Absolutely, you're fine.
That's all the things I've learned over these. I'm 23 now. Like that's some things
so
I've
old,
learned.
huh?
Yeah, like, that's some things I learned about, like, you know,
Yeah.
being selfless and not being selfish and like trying to help people and like.
So if we were thinking, you know, we deal with youth, what would you say to a youth that might be struggling with bipolar, what mental health illness, or just struggling? What would you say? I know for you, music and support was really important to you. What would you say to them?
I would say to somebody struggling that they're not alone. There are people that are struggling too, and that it's okay to feel bad sometimes. Like it's okay to feel those emotions. It's okay to feel really, really happy. It's okay to feel really, really sad. And it's just about like realizing that, hey, I'm feeling really, really happy. Something might be wrong. Like just, it's important to have self-awareness. That's what I would explain to them. And like understanding that if you feel like something's off, talk about it. Talk about like, hey, go to someone you trust that you really think would listen to you and tell them. It doesn't have to be mom or dad. It could be grandma. It could be an aunt or uncle, or it could be somebody at school. Like it could be a teacher. It could be a friend that you have. Like, just let them know that, like, hey, I'm battling right now. Like, and share it with somebody that you trust. If you don't have somebody that you trust, there's some resources that you can utilize, but I'd encourage you to find someone in your life that you trust, that you can share that with, that won't judge you for having something wrong with you.
Well, that's good. That's good. Finding someone that you can trust so you can share with what you're dealing with is really important and really key. And it's okay to not be okay.
Exactly. How are we on time?
40 minutes.
It's 40 minutes?
30,
Okay.
30.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
We're good.
Thank you so
Did
much.
we cover everything?
We covered just about everything.
What did we not cover?
I don't know. I think
It was so much.
That was
Because I
great.
wanted to stay in the past. And
That was great. That was perfect for this. So thank you guys for tuning in to this docuseries. We had a great time filming, and I hope you learned something and that you can take away some of this information in order to help you get through what you're going through. And like, I hope you know that you're not alone. So thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Deuces.